to Women Seeking Wholeness. We're in episode 95, inching ever closer to the 100th episode, which I'm so excited about. If you haven't joined the Women Seeking Wholeness Facebook group, please do so. I'm getting ready to launch some really cool discussions and giveaways and just some all-around deep dive lives so that we can get aligned with some of these deeper concepts as the world continues to go into more and more uncertainty. Well, that kind of leads me to our episode today, Understanding Angels and Spirit Guides. Have you ever wondered when, how, and if angels and other beings support you from the other side? How can we use spirit guides in a practical way to guide us through daily life? Well, Allyson Scammell is a master certified coach, podcast host, intuitive business consultant, and soul guide. And so her mission is to help soul-guided women entrepreneurs to be seen and heard using their unique genius, intuitive voice, and spirit guides. And interestingly enough, I was on Allyson's podcast as a guest recently. And as we started talking, I guess off camera, we talked about how, there's just often this real stigma and misunderstood concept about us being these multi-sensory, multi-dimensional beings. She had a near-death experience, so she'll kind of share how this unfolded for her. But we're going to go into some different kinds of primary intuitive gifts that we each have that can be developed. She's going to talk about the 6 kind of spirits or non-physical consciousness beings. And so really it's about kind of listening to your intuition or higher self along with your spirit guides, because as you know, I'm all about sovereignty. I'm all about your higher self being a sovereign being in your own life domain, especially again as we move into this era on the earth where things are just crazy and uncertain. So we can really utilize these angelic beings and spirit guides for our higher learning and growth and protection and overall insight. Oh, Allyson, I'm so glad that you're here and you're in all over the world. Tell our listeners where you're at right now.
I am so thrilled to be here, and I am in the Netherlands.
Yeah. I've been there before. The time to be there, I believe, is the spring during the tulips, but
that is correct. It's not now, where it's just rain, and more rain.
More rain.
Yeah.
Well, I know you have a fascinating story, which I don't even know what it is. You're leaving me in suspense. So we are definitely going to talk about spirit guides, but I'm very curious how this became an area of interest for you.
Yeah. So it happened to me in 2009. Before 2009, I didn't know what a spirit guide was. I think I knew about my intuition, but I didn't know how to access it. But in 2009, I had a near-death experience. And it wasn't the kind, I wish I could say, Cherie, that I was hit by a bus and I, popped out of my physical body and saw Aunt Martha and then came back. It was not like that. You hear oftentimes NDEs described in that way. And mine was very different. I had, it's a little bit of a difficult story to tell in a short amount of time, but essentially I was visited by a collection of consciousness from my soul family who kind of guided me through a near-death experience. So I had spirit guides guide me through an NDE because it was something that I needed on a soul level to heal from. And when I came back from crossing over to the other side, I had really, really incredible intuitive gifts, and I was mostly a clairaudient, and then in time developed my clairvoyant abilities and over time became a psychic medium because of that experience.
That is so fascinating. Okay, so you just dropped a lot of terms that I'm aware of, but maybe for our listeners, let's back up a little bit about the whole soul family thing, because I know everyone has varying beliefs on, the afterlife, the pre-earth life, et cetera, the nature of eternity and, those realities are very different for people. Did you have a certain construct, religiously or spiritually, before this happened to you? And then how did that shift? Because I want to talk about what your definition of soul family is. That's kind of where I'm leading with this.
Sure, sure. So I was raised Lutheran, and interesting, my mother was a Lutheran and my father was Christian Scientist, which is not Scientology. It's one of the only organized, kind of major organized religions founded by a woman, Mary Baker Eddy. And so my parents always said you could go to church with mom or dad, and they really instilled within us this very open religious belief system, encouraging us to believe what we feel is right. So I took that with me and I kind of struggled a little bit because I didn't know what that was for me, like through my 20s. And then by the time I was in my early 30s, when this NDE happened, I had just sort of really tapped into spirituality in the sense of connecting into my soul, what felt like I just was kind of scratching the surface of that from a really dark place. Actually, I was in a really low place in life, and I wanted to understand my role, and I wanted to have a belief system that I believed in. And so I was really seeking that, and I was pretty lost actually at the time. And so what happened when this collection of consciousness arrived is that they arrived to sort of a person who didn't, like, I was living a pretty sort of a third dimensional life, if you will. Like, I went to work and I didn't meditate, and I didn't do a lot of the spiritual practices that are part of my everyday today. I didn't even know about them. I didn't have the language back then, for sure not.
Right.
But how it arrived to me and how I understood it and how I receive it today is it was a collection of consciousnesses. So like a collection of souls, if you will. And they called themselves, when they first arrived to me, Live. And so it was, like I said, this is a pretty long story that I'm truncating. So it was a whole process in how I was able to communicate with this consciousness, because I was very, very closed off. Like, I didn't know how to make that communication. But in a nutshell, how they described themselves, that they described us as souls having, spiritual beings having a human experience, and that we all come into this human experience from a spiritual place in which we have soul families. So there's collections of energies and consciousness that we return to when we are in between lives. And so this again holds the belief of having multiple lifetimes, which I now hold. And I totally understand if you don't hold that belief, but that's kind of where I'm coming. And it's that family your soul always returns to.
And it could be like, it's fairly large, right? Or is it fairly, I guess that's subjective. Like, what's the general number for a soul family?
That's a good question. How would one describe that? I have to even channel in my guides that question. So what they're going to say to me is the size of a soul family. It's a collection of energy. You can look at it as an energetic footprint, and that, because when you're out of your physical body and you are an energy body, really, you are connected in a way that can be described as a footprint. And these footprints can be quite large and quite powerful. And but it's not what my guides are trying to tell me right now is we go back to this footprint that feels very familiar to us and feels very much like home. And within this footprint, we all understand each other's soul purpose, our soul gifts, the past lifetimes we've lived, the future experiences that we want to experience. And this collection, if you will, this footprint is there to support you. So everybody is there all the energy that is there is to support everyone else. So this energetic footprint is what arrived to help me back in 2009 through my experience.
Yeah. Okay, great. I follow people like Ainsley MacLeod and, I've read Destiny of Souls, whatever, Journey of Souls. And so I'm pretty familiar with like a soul family. I think the first place I heard it was on Oprah with Gary Zukav back in I don't know if it was the 90s or the early 2000s. So it's been intriguing to me for a while. And I, it makes sense to me. everything is, such a mystery in terms of like, how old is our soul? How ancient, where are the places our soul has traveled? So I think it's just very, very compelling. So you have this near-death experience, and it comes in a form that was unexpected, obviously, but you came back with more abilities, more spiritual gifts. And I think you mentioned clairvoyant and clairaudient. Is that right?
Yeah. So when I came back, I really had a strong clairaudient gift, which means the ability to hear non-physical consciousness. So, and I can describe what I mean by that. So that's that clairaudient. And then over time, I developed my clairvoyant gift, which is the ability to see. But to be honest, my go-to intuitive gift is my audient. And that's what I tune into normally when I do channeling and stuff. Is I just, it's just a communication flow of hearing. And then I communicate what it is I'm hearing.
Is it also kind of a little bit like you don't always perceive exactly what you're hearing until you say it, or is it more of a download?
Both. Okay. Oftentimes when I'm just channeling, I really don't know what they're going to say until it's coming out of my mouth. Every once in a while, mostly for me, and I think this, varies from person to person, when I'm in the creative process and I don't know, trying to design a new program for my business or work on a podcast episode, I will actually get a download. And that comes in through my and we all have these intuitive gifts, that comes in through my claircognizant gift, which is that inner knowing. And all of a sudden it just, bam, it's like they put a thumb drive into me and just downloaded it. And I have this inner knowing that this is the thing I need to do, or this is how it works.
I believe that more and more people are going to, people have had these gifts for a while. Everyone has all of them, right? We just bury them, basically. We either second guess ourselves, or the veils are just so thick, right? But we have all of these. Everyone has these. I can't remember which episode where we kind of dove into some of these. I think it was on the Divine Feminine with Raquel Vasallo, but we talked about, usually there's a catalyst. Usually something happens to kind of shake you up, whether it's a near-death experience or a trauma. Sometimes a trauma, sometimes, you just go through like a dark night type of experience. And when you come out on the other side, the veil is thinner. Like you're able to develop these gifts. But what's sad is that they're not honored. And I wouldn't say they're not honored. Like there are people who honor them. But by and large, they're so misunderstood that sometimes there can be a stigma attached, or like, who do you think you are? And even like, especially I would say in the space of religion, if you were to stand up in your religious space and say, I'm getting a download, or, like I'm channeling right now, you would be removed. Like you would just be like, okay, there's the door. Thank you.
That's totally right. And when I came to from my NDE, it was I talked about it to very, very few people, because I thought, oh, people will think I'm nuts. So I just didn't talk about it. And to the people I did talk to about it, it was kind of a pat on the head, and they're like, there. Yeah. I understand that's how you think.
Nice.
Yeah, that's nice. You'll snap out of this. And I knew that there was nothing to snap out of. I knew that my life had changed forever, and I didn't have, a breakdown. I had a breakthrough.
Oh, I love that. So with clairaudience, this is how you're able to communicate with beings, entities, whatever. And I want you to define what that means a little bit more. Can you develop clairaudience? And because I know it's going to kind of morph into the spirit guide conversation.
Yes. So I'll start with, there's 4 primary intuitive gifts. And of course, there's more out there in a bigger range, but the 4 primary intuitive gifts in the way we receive information, both from our higher self, so that's the voice of our intuition or our soul, and from spirit guides, which is the non-physical consciousness that's out there in the cosmos to support us and guide us on our human journey. We receive information in 4 primary different ways, in which we've been talking about. The clairsentient, which we haven't mentioned yet, is that you sense it. And that's where most people start. You just sense an answer. You sense a message is coming through. And this is actually an easy one for people to second guess because they want to see it and they want to hear it. But clairsentient is a very, very strong intuitive gift that a lot of people have. Everybody has, and some people it's their dominant intuitive gift. So it's really just something to be aware of if you sense guidance coming through, and to really experiment around with trusting it. You don't have to do something crazy, but just tip your toes in the water of trusting it. And if you're sensing that there's guidance to take a certain action, just take a baby step towards whatever that is and just see how it feels. And often you'll see that it really feels like you're going in the right direction. You'll get that feedback. So that's the first one. The second one is the claircognizant, which is the inner knowing. That's also one that's easy for people to second guess, but it's really strong within most of us. And if it's not strong within you, it's something that you can develop. And then the third one is the clairaudient, which is hearing, like getting messages that you actually hear coming through. And then the clairvoyance, which is you see an entity before you. With the clairvoyance, it's kind of like how you see it. How it arrives to me is if, for example, you put out your arm and you imagine that you're holding an ice cream cone, and that's how it appears to me. That kind of image. It's like kind of there and kind of not, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's how I receive it. And so those are the ways that we receive information. I just thought that might be helpful for people.
Yeah, for sure. And receiving is I just want to add here too, a very feminine art. A lot of these things that you're describing, inner knowing, sensing, those are very feminine ways of being. And again, those are not honored in the masculine space necessarily, or I should say the patriarchy. It's just been undervalued for so long because it's not quantifiable. It's not scientifically proven, if you will. So it takes a lot of bravery for someone to come forward and be like, I know this, or I can see this, or I'm hearing this. And I just want to honor you for having that bravery.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you saying that because it's taken me years. I speak about it really confidently now. And I'm at a really confident place with it, but it took me years to muster up the courage to be able to talk about that for the exact reasons you just said. Really fear of how people would perceive it, fear of people rejecting me. So if you're out there and you feel like you have these gifts inside of you, because you do, and you're feeling this hesitation, just know that you're not alone. And my advice, if you are feeling this little like, oh, well, I feel like I'm hearing things or seeing things or sensing things, but I don't want to talk about it, is really just to develop it within yourself. Get clear about it and confident about it with yourself. And then find a community out there, like this community here, where people are having the conversations, and you will see in no time that this is not weird. It's not strange. It's really the tools that we were born with. And it's the tools that we're really meant to have to help guide us through this human experience, which, let's face it, can be challenging. Hello, it's 2020. It's a challenging year. And to not access these tools and this wisdom that's here, all loving and wanting to support us, it's not nice. It's not good. I want everybody to know that these tools are here and that they can access them, and this is what I like to say. They don't make your life easy, but they do make things more easeful. So so they're never going to guide you away from a challenge that you're meant to experience. However, it'll make that challenge so much more easeful.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, totally. And some people, the veil is so thin for them that they have to put up a lot of boundaries and create those healthy boundaries and protect themselves, because, and I believe a lot of empaths have these things happening. I believe a lot of people that have been labeled mentally ill might have a lot of clairaudience. They're just picking up a different frequency. So let's talk a little bit about the spirit guides. Can you kind of unpack, because we hear, there's angels, there's spirits, there's demons, there's guides, there's, let's kind of pull that apart a little bit.
Absolutely. So there's tons and tons and tons of non-physical consciousness out there. There's high vibrational consciousness that is all loving in highest service to your highest good. And there's not. There is a dark energy out there for sure. I like to tell people that we humans with our power intention are so much stronger and more powerful than any of the dark energy out there. So with a couple little tools that I can share with you today, you will always protect yourself from that dark energy, because you're so much more powerful than it. But it's really good to be aware that it's there. And when you invite in communication to the non-physical realm, that you're inviting in the right consciousness that is in that highest service, your highest good. So unpacking that high vibrational, high consciousness energy that you really do want to invite in, that really is here to support you on your path. There's lots and lots and lots of different consciousness out there, but I'm just going to talk about 6 because I think this is what most people access in their everyday, and it's what you will hear about often talked about in podcasts like this. So the first are the archangels, and so archangels have a very powerful, large energy signature, and there are a lot of famous archangels out there. I'm really not, because of the unique way that I got to do what I do. I'm not an expert on all the different archangels that are out there. I have certain archangels that I communicate with, but they are really there, and they're a great a great entity to always call in. Archangels are very Googleable. So it's a good idea to, do a couple Google searches. And if you want an archangel to help you with healing or relationships or creativity, there's an archangel for pretty much anything that you would like guidance or help in.
I've got I just went to Sedona by myself a few weeks ago, and I climbed to the top of this really cool, kind of like a church or a chapel. I forgot the name of it, Chapel of the Holy Cross or something, that's literally built into a cliff. And I found this statue there in the gift store of Michael the Archangel. And I'm looking at it right now. I don't know. It just called to me, and I don't know a lot about them. I know some of their names, like Gabriel and Michael and all those, but yeah, it's fascinating that I think I just want to say this before we start talking about all of that, like different kinds, that I think it's for some people that are more, I guess, orthodox. It's like, well, there's just God, right? Why do you need to talk to all of these different, how can you would conflate your spirituality so much? But for me, I loved having these kind of conversations because it's just like, you need a team. And God, however people define God, works through these, like you said, these non-physical consciousness beings. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of start off with that, because it's like you need a tribe, you need a village, like you need a team. You have to be very selective about who that team is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you describe it this way. Yeah. It's like I sometimes call it your spiritual support staff. and yes, God is part of that. If whatever your religious practice is, this does not, I do not believe this contradicts that. I think it supports it. To call on these different entities that are referenced in a lot of the major organized religions. So yes, I totally agree. And I figure, hey, I need as much support as I can get to get through this life. So if I can call it in, I will.
And it's a huge universe, like literally it's massive. So there's just so much there's so many places our soul has probably been. And we're more familiar with many of these entities and beings than we can consciously realize now, obviously, because things are veiled from us. So it just makes sense to me now that we would have some familiarity and that we would have that ability to call in, specific angels or guides for what we are needing at different points in our lives.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And all of this wisdom that I'm going to be going through right now, they are just that. They're to be called on. They all have expertise, if you will. And it's just calling on the subject matter expert for different things that you need in your life. So getting to the next set of guides are your guardian angels. And we're all assigned with guardian angels, more than one. And depending on the lifetime you're in, and okay, so this gets back into if you hold the belief that we do have multiple human experiences. Not every lifetime is the same. And so how one spiritual teacher presented it to me once, it's like sometimes you have the potato farmer lifetime where you're a potato farmer and you have a happy little house in the countryside and you grow your potatoes and you don't have like big highs or big lows. And that's just what you're meant to do in that lifetime. But then you have the lifetime where everything happens. And I think a lot of the people listening to this podcast probably are in one of those lifetimes. My guides actually have called it a culmination lifetime. So you have lots of kind of big highs and big lows that your soul really needs to experience as you evolve and grow to the next level. And these are the things that you need to experience. So these guardian angels are here to help you through those highs and through those lows. And if you are going through a bigger lifetime, a culmination lifetime, you could have 20 guardian angels. I mean, you could have a lot. So it just kind of depends on the lifetime. And these are angels that stay with you from birth to death. They are with you the whole time. They know everything that's going on in your life. They're there. And I've had people say, but oh my gosh, they're with me in the shower. Yes, they are. But how they describe it to me is they see you as a baby, like you're as innocent to them as a little baby, a naked baby is to us. So they don't really have that human conditioning that, we need to be embarrassed by the human body and all that stuff. They see us as precious and innocent as a naked baby. That's
good to know.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of sweet.
Yeah.
But yes, they are really with you through everything, and they know they're really here, and they're really the inner core of your spiritual support team. Mm-hmm. Another big group that really I have called on profoundly at different points in my life are spirit animals. There's lots of wisdom in the animal kingdom. They're really elevating their stature to really help the humans transition to something better. We're going through a big transitionary time on planet, and the animal kingdom has really come to help the humans make good decisions and make decisions that are in highest good to all living beings. So they play a big role, and you can call, like sometimes you might have had a really strong relationship to a pet, a cat or a dog, and you just feel like they're still with you. They probably are. Mm-hmm. So when that happens, and there's tons and tons of wisdom in the animal kingdom. So that is a really big part of what's here to support and guide us.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And the next group are ascended masters. And so these are, then again, like not to challenge anybody's religious beliefs, but how I understand it is that ascended masters are people who have had human experiences, but they're really, really enlightened souls, huge consciousness, ancient souls who are here on planet Earth to help support and guide people and the collective having a human experience. That includes Buddha and Mother Mary and other ascended masters. That's also something you can Google search a list of ascended masters, and there's some pretty good lists out there. And I do most of my channeling at this point in my experience with ascended masters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've studied a little bit like Masters of the Far East and different things like that. And there's a vast array of ascended masters. And yeah, I guess for me, I'll just be honest, like, how do you know if they're like, between the archangels and the guardian angels and the ascended masters, if they're all on the same page with stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, are they all congruent with the high vibe meanings of, would you get conflicting information? And I think that's why some people are a little leery of looking at all these different non-physical entities and calling out to them.
Yeah, so definitely not. And you can, well, let me back up. It is possible, but I'm going to tell you how to call in the guidance so it's never conflicting. And the number one voice always, and this is something that one of the first lessons that I learned from my guides is your number one voice is the voice of your higher self, that soul voice, your intuition.
Totally agree. Totally.
Yes, that is the CEO of your human experience. And when you call in loving guides, all they're ever going to do is support that voice. And they're normally, when you call in spirit guides, it's going to be some sort of collection of consciousness, not always, but often. And that collection is always going to be totally in sync because they are operating as a collection. They do not have the separation that we perceive that we have as human beings, right? And they're going to come in with a very unified, clear message that's always going to be supporting the guidance coming from your heart.
So they would have the knowing of your higher self's components and dimensions, and I want to say personality, but I know that's ego. But these ascended masters, guides, and spirits would have in their loving, if they're in the collection of, let's just say, Christ consciousness or love, they would have the knowing of what is in your highest and best interest and what would serve you in any moment.
100%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I've always believed that your most sacred connection is to your divine spirit or your higher self. And so, yeah, that for me, that's like God's self. That's right.
Yes.
I've been right with God.
Yes. And that's exactly what my guides have always told me. And sometimes, in fact, when I get a little bit overly reliant on them for guidance, they will go quiet. And they go quiet because they want me to go to my heart, because I've been bypassing my heart for too long. So guides, like real guides with this loving footprint, they will always guide you back to your heart and be in support of the guidance coming from your heart.
I look at even just some ancient texts, like in the New Testament. I mean, Jesus was always reflecting back to people. Well, what do you think? Exactly. What does that mean to you? Right. So I just wanted to add that there because yes, even God comes to guide you back to your own knowing, your own heart. What do you think? And that's more empowering than just, dictating something or saying this is the way it is. So absolutely, that's my spiritual path right now is being in my body and being grounded and then receiving what it is I need to receive in congruence with like my higher self. It's like running it past her.
Yeah.
That's
beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
So we've got archangels, you call them archangels. I call them archangels, but guardian angels, spirit animals, and ascended masters.
Yep. And the next one, okay, we get into a little bit of a different category in the sense that departed loved ones. So people who have crossed over, who are, were loved ones. And, when they cross over, they can hang around. Yeah. If they feel like there is something that they have to guide you on, sometimes they have something that they have to resolve within themselves. Like maybe they have a regret in particular about their relationship with you. Maybe a parent crosses over and they regret things that happened. They can hang around to try to find atonement within themselves. And it's really they're sort of preparing their own soul to really transition on. So with departed loved ones, they're a little bit of a different energy, and they don't have they don't always arrive to you as this collection of consciousness like the ascended masters would.
So it wouldn't have the same wisdom like an
Not
oracle type of wisdom.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not necessarily. But sometimes there's departed loved ones that hang around that really shouldn't be hanging around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually help them to move on. Sometimes there's something you need to resolve. So they're a little bit of a different category, but also very important, I think, in part of this conversation. And then the last one I'll mention is they're sometimes called helper angels or freelance angels. And those are angels, they don't have the energetic footprints of the archangels, but they are angels that you can call in to help you through specific circumstances or challenges or desires that you want to achieve in your life. So, yeah.
Great. That's so interesting. So how do you had mentioned earlier that you have ways of protecting yourself, like a practical way that you could offset maybe some of these more nefarious entities that might want to pop in or give you a mixed message. Cause I know I have personally experienced trickster energy, trickster angels. I wouldn't even call them angels, but it's just trying to throw me off for it. It seemed really above board and whatever. And then I just felt intuitively there's something off here. I need to take a step back.
Yes, that's definitely a thing. It's definitely out there. If you feel like, I would say, if you feel like you might have a dark energy, like really connected into you, you definitely should hire someone. That's a time to invest some time and money. It's something that I do, like any sort of energy clearer, get some support with that to get that. Cause the dark energy can actually plug in to your energy footprint, into your energy aura. And just most of the time they just want to siphon energy off of you. So they're taking energy from you, and just, it's exactly what you said. Most of the time it's trickster energy and they just want to mess with you. So
it's like their playground. It's like fun. Oh, there's this human that's receptive right now. How can I offset things?
Exactly. So a good healer, energy clearer practitioner can just zap that right from your energy system. And so that's a good time to invest some time and money in that. But most of the time you don't need to do that. And it's just being very clear about what you're inviting in. So here's the thing about spirit guides at this high vibrational level. They're polite and they never come in to give you guidance and direction unless you invite it in on a deeper level. Even if they've been with you your whole life and you've been interacting your whole life, they have been, all this consciousness has been with you, but they're never going to overstep their bounds. And so if you are interested in taking that deeper connection and having a deeper relationship, the first step is to invite it in and to invite in the right guests into your space. And so it's as simple as making the invitation, and I invite in the form of an intention, because our intention is so powerful in the energetic realm. If we intend something, it is created in the quantum field, right? It's created immediately with that power of our intention. It just, sometimes we have to, it takes time.
It takes time to show up in the physical manifestation.
Exactly. So when we intend what type of consciousness we're inviting into our space, it's very powerful, and dark energies are powerless against it, really powerless. So I intend to invite in, for example, I'll give you an example of what you can do. I intend to invite in the highest, most vibrational, wisest, most loving consciousness that is in the highest service to my highest good. And that is what I invite into my space to support me and guide me on my path so I can realize my very best self.
And you can hold that without even the language of it. It's just like this instantaneous, I know this is like my analogy that I use when I'm working beyond the veil, is I imagine like an elevator, and I'm like, I want to go to the top. I'm not interested. Like if there's 12 floors, I want to go on the 12th floor. I don't want to stop at the 5th floor and hang out with that. I whatever's happening there. And that's not like, spiritual snobbery. It's just like, I want to know the absolute highest. So I actually just will picture me getting in the elevator and going to the top. And that's my quick intention with it. And like, I hold that just in my consciousness. I just hold that visual and it works for me.
That is perfect. That's exactly what I guide people do. Go to the 12th floor, go to the top. Why not? You are in control of it. You have the power to access it through your intention. And exactly, you don't even have to use words, just put your energy on it and bam, there you go. So if you can get the highest, most loving, most wisest, why not? So I always just go straight to the top, get superlative, get the est, the biggest, the best, the most loving, and go straight there. I totally agree with you.
Sweet. Okay. So what do you do? Okay. So you just hold the intention, and then is there anything else that you do that is helpful to protect and also to really seal that intention in?
Yeah, so it's a two-pronged punch that will really protect you completely from any sort of trickster energy. The first is the intention, and the second is the energy shielding. And again, using your power of intention, which is really strong, what you do, and there's different ways to do energy shielding. I'm going to offer you one way that works super well for me and with clients I work with. You just imagine you're putting an imaginary energetic shield around your energy aura. So you can imagine it coming out of the top of your head, right at your crown chakra, and imagine an energy shield going straight up and around your energy aura, which goes out about 6 feet or 2 meters in every direction. So it goes out like an apple, if you will, in every direction, this shield, and it comes up at the bottom of your feet. And get very sassy and snappy and just command your energy space. I command this space. This is my space. And the only thing that's let in is that energy that's in highest service to my highest good. And when you get, become a diva with your space, get very commanding, clear it out, that's really, really powerful. And if you want to, take it to the next level, then do another energy shield around the room you're in. I like to do energy shields around my bedroom to protect me while I sleep at night, and then do one around your house. And then if you have a property, just do one around your property, and you can do a layered shielding. And that really, basically any sort of energy that's not really of good intentions will not be allowed in, will not be near you. They just can't get in. They can't get through that.
Wow. We really do have so much power just in our ability to command whatever it is we wish to, in terms of, shielding and protection and intention. And I've lost a sister to suicide, about 15 years ago this year, actually. And sometimes I just have a conversation with her, and we could get into a whole thing of the gamut I went through when she was kind of in a transitory state where she was just experiencing so much angst as a soul because of her choice, especially because she left 5 children behind. So I discern her very differently than I did in the initial, years following, especially initial days and weeks following her death. But what's interesting is I used to be really, I guess it was just, I was programmed with fear around talking to anyone but God in my mind, as far as a soul, a spirit, an angel, anything at all but God. It was just like, but then I realized God is in the details of so much. And it was like, well, why not? And so I will talk to Mary Magdalene in my mind. I will talk to my sister who's passed away. I will talk to different archangels. I will talk to some of my grandparents who've passed away. If I know they're high vibe, I'm going to talk to them. Because I think we get into scarcity about this stuff, and we go into just fear of being deceived. So the reason I brought up the trickster thing is I have experienced that, but it was good for me because I know the difference now. And I know that I don't need to go to fear, and that the world, the unseen realm is my playground, so to speak, because I trust my own discernment. And it was hard fought, but I trust it now. And so for people who are operating more from a like, I wouldn't mess with anything but God. Well, guess what? God is in all of these things, all of these 6 things that you just described. And yeah. So I just wanted to say, like, it's for me, it's about trusting my own intuition and God kind of being like, go, like, again, like the universe is your playground. Go, like, experience and be with these different energies, because your higher self is I've got you. Like, you're good.
Yes. So well said. 100%. Yes. That's exactly right. And we do have so much power to protect ourselves. And it is great to actually feel what trickster energy feels like. So you know what not to tune into. And I believe God is present in all of these things. God is present inside of me. And I share your belief. And I do believe that the non-physical realm, it is like a playground, and it's there for your creativity. It's there for love. It's there for support. It's there for healing. So,
Yeah.
And you said the big word here, trust. And it takes a while to build trust with your guides. It takes a while to build trust with your intuition, if that's not something you've been consciously doing. So I always tell people to, ask some questions, throw some questions out there to the higher self, throw some questions out there. Yes, no, simple questions to a spirit guide. See what answers they come back with, what you sense, see, hear, have an inner knowing to be coming back. Take a little bit of action on that, and then just see how it feels. And you will be able to feel the alignment. And when you feel that alignment and you feel that flow and you feel like, yeah, I'm on the right path here. This guidance is good. That's going to be evidence that this is working, and that's going to build your trust.
Beautiful. Well, this has been so interesting. I feel like I could have you back on and we could really develop more of these. Like, it's so fascinating to me that, we have a very limitless ability with our soul. Like you said, the biggest piece of this for me is creativity, and then relationships, love. The more people who love you, the better. And I know this is kind of a weird analogy to end with, but it's just coming to me. So I'm just going to say it. So, like, adoption, a lot of people are weirded out at how open my adoptions are with my 2 youngest kids. I have 3 bio kids and 2 adopted children. And I've always just felt like, hey, the more people who love them, the better. They have their birth families, and then they have their quote unquote real families, because that's what we are. I just think it's healthier. I think we can just get into so much scarcity about our boundaries with people and the universe and beings and what have you, that we lose sight of just so much that's available to us for love, more love. So that's just what came to me as we're kind of rounding the discussion out, is just not being in scarcity, that the more the people who love you, the better. The more beings that can support your path, especially related to what you're here to do on this planet, the better.
Amen. Beautifully said. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, Allyson, can you tell the listeners where they can find you? I've been on your podcast and I love it. Tell them the name of your podcast.
Yes, I host a podcast called She Grows, and my target audience are soul-guided women entrepreneurs, but I work with a lot of non-entrepreneurs who are on a spiritual path and want to go a little bit deeper on their soul journey. And so my podcast is a lot about business growth, but also spiritual growth. And you can, if you're interested if you have a business or a business idea, I've got a pretty cool freebie on my website, which is AllysonScammell.com. And you can download a guide that shows the 5 visibility blockers that are preventing your ideal clients and customers from finding you. And so I get a lot of really positive feedback on this little guide. And so you can grab that if that sounds like it's interesting, because I want to tell you that your offerings are way too important to be invisible. So I want to help you be seen and get booked.
Love it. Thank you so much, Allyson, for your time today. This was super fascinating.
Thank you so much for having me.
I guess one of the things I took the most from this is that clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairaudience, they're all for the taking. They're all part of our genetic spiritual makeup, these intuitive gifts that we can develop. One thing I'm passionate about is just being able to receive, which is a very feminine art, being able to receive. So as we open ourselves more to receive, the more we are developing these insights and spiritual gifts. And we have this understanding now that we're not alone. There are a plethora of angels and spirit guides and beings that are here for our protection and guidance. So I hope you remember that as you go about your week, that you are not alone.